This is the end, my only friends. Well, it's the beginning of it anyway. How's it going?
I was like, don't do another line. There's an amount we can sing and get away with.
Yeah. It also like contextually gets way worse if I keep singing that song. So, I'm not here to murder you.
Thanks.
I'm just here to say that we're here. We're at level 19, and we are literally in the final end game bits for the APA. You know, like, I don't know. I was saying just before we started recording, I think we got maybe 15 to 20 episodes left. I'm not quite ready to call exactly where it's going to be, but it's coming up. And, you know, it's just, I want to take a second before I've got this whole like recap plan, but before we get into that, I just want to take a second to ask each of you, how are you feeling after 4 years with these characters or with this story, as we're like looking down the tunnel to the light that is the end? How you feel as my players and my friends? Just do check in.
It's not real.
Exactly.
Obviously it's all fiction, right? But I'm saying like it doesn't feel like I'm not feeling that. You
pressure,
are like I think you're probably feeling that way more than the rest of us are, because you're thinking ahead through the rest of this thing, whereas we're just flying by the seat of our pants, you know.
Sure.
So it's like you keep saying we're close to the end. We're close to the end. I believe you, but I don't. It doesn't sunk in.
I think you also have to factor in like the deep-seated denial of that even happening. I just fully expect there to be like some homebrewed like prestige level after this that I'm never going to stop playing Kuiper. So, yeah. I look forward to playing this for another 4 years.
Just put
level 40, baby.
Level
40.
Coming for you. In my head, I intellectually know, yes, we are coming to an end. Yes, it's probably less than 20 episodes left. Like, I know this, but I don't feel it. And even in like my knowing, it's still like kind of bittersweet, right? It's like we've had an opportunity to take the campaign to level 20. That's a lot of people don't get to do that. Period.
No.
So that in and of itself is really, you know, exciting, but also it's very much like we'll be closing this book, like not even a chapter, like this book of our time together, and it's makes me a little sad. So I've decided not to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I choose denial, so that's all right.
It's got that kind of like bittersweet feeling of a multi-year, which it is, a multi-year long project, similar to like getting a degree or, you know, going through high school or something, to where it's like, we're still going to be friends afterwards, of course, and we're still going to keep doing the things that we're doing. But with these specific characters, it's just like Emily, I don't want to think about it because it makes me sad. Like it's like I've gotten a terminal diagnosis for someone that I love, and there's nothing I can do about it but enjoy the time I have left with them.
Well put. I like that.
Heath, are you in denial like the rest of our squad here?
I don't think so, because
It's got to be different for you, right?
Yeah. So like, first of all, I miss Mike. You know, that's very emotional. But having lost a character that I played for a very long time, like, the finality of things is a little more real to me, you know, than the rest of the crew, I would imagine. But also just mechanically, because I had a character die and had to make a new character and then just had to level up and stuff, like the actual character sheets are what, other than Mike, what kind of makes it real for me. Like, having to make a new character at level 18 is like, oh god, like there's only 20 levels in this game, you know, and then just leveling up to 19, like just the mechanical side of it is like, yeah, we're nearing the you know, the actual end of the road in terms of the numbers of the game.
For sure.
So I don't think I'm in denial like everybody else is. Like I'm not like caught up in it as far as like, oh God, we're gonna be done soon. Time to make myself sad. But I've already been sad, and now I'm just enjoying playing a new character, because that's the bittersweet part for me. Is losing Mike really sucked and it was tough. But I'm very excited to play a new character that I in some ways got to carry on a little bit of the spirit of Mike mechanically through that character, but also try out some new things that I'm really excited about.
Well, I didn't really intend to bring this up as a downer, more as a reflection of what we've accomplished. And to that point, I want to just take a moment to like look back at what we've done up to this point. And so if you guys will indulge me, I've put together a pretty extensive recap. Now, as we go through this, I encourage you to chime in at time to time so I can take a break from speaking. But I think that you'll find, like, once it's all contextualized in this way, the story of the APA is so incredibly epic and dense. This is the truncated version of
Truncated.
I have to keep getting
Cut
my
your trunk
mispronunciations all the way through the end. I had to like. There's like whole aspects that are missing from this recap, right?
Did you say ass necks?
No, but
We actually added a lot of ass necks to the story.
Missing from the recap.
There's no dearth of ass necks lately.
I will say that not once in this recap does the word ass necks appear, and I feel like
That's your problem right
that's a
there.
problem.
Yeah, you fucked up.
Yeah. So here we go.
Okay.
Let's look back. Let's look back on the APA. At the start of this endeavor, your characters were all living separate lives, unknowingly connected by a shared mentor, the wise, mystic android, Sedona. A letter from Sedona to Madame Ziva, the owner and director of the Pools of Paradise, started your journey together. The letter enlisted Ziva to collect a group of some of Sedona's most trusted friends to go to a new colony that had discovered a potential ancient secret. Ziva first went to Orrin and Felino, a human pilot and a Verthani mechanic respectively. These two friends had been entrusted with the care of the Epic Tracer, a ship that was used during Sedona's steward and android abolitionist front days. From there, she went on to meet Michael and Xeno 5, the owners of a new bodyguard and prisoner escort service called the Apollo Protection Agency. The five of them boarded the Epic Tracer without any knowledge that this flight would begin a series of events that would change them and entwine them with each other forever. The Epic Tracer crew arrived at Nikondas, the planet that was the location of the new colony, only to find that it had been occupied by the Aslanti Star Empire. The Aslanti are a fascist government that rules all the other peoples of the Star Empire with an iron fist. However, their presence here was a surprise and troublesome, as it was unlike them to venture beyond the borders of their star system. Ziva, Orrin, Mike, Xeno, and Fel made their bonds together as they cleared the colony of the Aslanti occupying forces and discovered that they were there because of an ancient pre-Gap Aslanti artifact, the Rune Drive. This was the secret that Sedona had alluded to in her letter, and this is what drew the Aslanti to Nikondas. The Rune Drive is an ancient starship engine that uses the powers of time and space to travel great distances quickly. It is an extremely powerful artifact that could be devastating in the wrong hands, yet the Aslanti could not figure out how to activate it. So they absconded with the Rune Drive and the crew's mentor, Sedona. The Epic Tracer crew agreed that they had to go after Sedona to save her from the clutches of the Aslanti Empire and to secure the Rune Drive in the process. But this meant going into Aslanti star space and eventually trying to infiltrate an Aslanti prison, a task that even the strongest stewards would grimace at the notion of. But the crew's love for Sedona was strong, their bonds with each other continuing to strengthen. Into Aslanti star space they went. You guys remember all this?
I was there.
Who are these people?
We did it.
Yeah.
Upon arrival in Aslanti star space, they discovered a neutral ground space station called Outpost Z, which was an abandoned mining facility repurposed as a rough-and-tumble outpost for space pirates, fugitives, merchants, and refugees. This
And
outpost... And box. Well, I'll get to that. But yes, and boxing. This outpost could not have been more alien to our heroes, as they struggled to understand any of the languages spoken or recognize any of the species present at the station. I want to just kind of pause here for a second. And do you guys remember that like complete stranger in a strange land feeling of those first couple Outpost Z episodes? You know, we had like the meatball merchant.
Yeah, that was just
and the blue,
species you
the
blue
chicken
gorilla
mouse.
faceless
the
thing.
chicken mouse. Yeah.
The
That's right.
meatball with fangs, whatever his name. Yeah.
The
hairy
space
meatball.
asparagus, the Draylak, the hairy meatball, the blue thing that
The blue guy that forcibly
right.
traded things with
Yeah.
me.
Right.
I mean,
And
Yeah, the Glimshar pirates,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
and I said it, but half red.
Half red.
Half red. Yeah,
Yes.
totally. Yeah.
Damn.
So it was, I think Outpost Z was, I'm speaking for all of you, but correct me if I'm wrong, but is one of our favorite locales that we've ever explored in a TTRPG.
It's certainly up there. Certainly up there.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time there. After some time, though, you guys did meet a translator named Hashachir, in which there was a battle for gruffest voice on the podcast. And you went to Hash for short, because it was easier to say. And they helped you communicate with the inhabitants of Outpost Z. This allowed them to discover that the Aslanti soldiers behind the kidnapping of Sedona were being led by a rogue Sardat, or a lieutenant of the Star Empire. This Sardat, Zolan, was attempting to discover the power of the Rune Drive himself, without the knowledge of the High Court of the Aslanti. They also discovered that he was the overseer of a prison moon where Sedona was being kept. So they went to Galta, the prison moon, after getting some intel from Talmarin. Remember Talmarin?
yes, Talmarin,
Yeah.
the mongoose, whatever,
Yes.
The
Yeah.
Goss
whatever
Claw.
race.
Gospel.
Yes, Gus
Gus
Claw.
Goss Claw.
And this was right after Zeno reached into a obviously
The fever filth.
trash
fever.
ridden
Yeah, and I
pile
had
got
fucking
put-
mage hand. It's like, I could have just done that.
Sweet dummy.
No.
You live and you learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Learn.
That's it.
You
That's
learn.
it. It was still early levels. You're excused, John. Although I remember giving you a lot of shit about it at the time. So, trying the old Wookiee prisoner trick, the crew managed to get past the initial guards at the prison, only to lose their cool when the Aslanti started acting like, well, Aslanti. So this began a harrowing fight through the prison to get to Sedona and the other prisoners, and then a near fatal escape from the moon. The Aslanti were relentless, seeming to be particularly keen in snagging Xeno 5. And if it wasn't for the smart use of starship weapons by Orin and the heroic efforts of Fel, Xeno 5 would still be in the clutches of the Aslanti now. Barely escaping with their lives, the crew returned to Outpost Z to heal and help Sedona recuperate. However, the respite was short, as a plot to assassinate them began to unveil itself. Alongside this murderous complication, Mike was thrust back into the boxing spotlight, competing in a series of matches that the Glimshar pirates had arranged for him. Both of these threads connected in a near-fatal match that revealed that the assassins had tried to use the boxing matches as a way to kill Mike and the others. That was the bear fight.
Uplifted bear. Yep.
Yep. But the Epic Tracer crew would not be stopped, and after a particularly brutal interrogation, I don't know if you guys remember that interrogation of the Draylaks that were there, but it was not pleasant.
remember that we threatened to basically kill him and keep on bringing him back.
Yeah, man. That was one of my favorite moments, getting to fully lean into Mike as an intimidator, you know?
Yeah.
You ended up killing him.
Yeah, which is fine.
I think Ziva actually
Ziva killed him.
Ziva put a bullet through his head at the end. But throughout that, because of that interrogation, you did find out that a reptoid and some nihilistic space asparagus had been hired by Zolan to kill Sedona's champions, with a particular emphasis of recovering Xeno's body. This continued focus on Xeno from Zolan was troublesome, but began to speak to Xeno's potential connection to the Rune Drive. After successfully confronting the assassins, the crew said their goodbyes to their new friends that they had made at Outpost Z and boarded the Epic Tracer again.
And lover.
That you left.
Had to let her down easy, man.
Had to go,
do you
man.
even think about her anymore? Do you call her?
No,
Call
he
her.
doesn't
No, he
call his
doesn't call her,
parents.
dude. He
Text her.
blocked
Calls
her
parents.
number, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Think about. Yeah.
Yeah, think about, yeah.
It's for the best. It's for the best.
It's in Fell's mind. It's the best for her.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah.
So this time, the Epic Tracer takes them to Zolan's secret lab on an asteroid, and their goal is to take the rune drive from him. The lab was filled with dangers. Greys, Aslanti specialists, beings from other planes, and more harried them in every room and hallway that they explored. There was even a noble but foolish attempt to pole vault with a trident.
There was.
Listen, okay. All right. Shut up.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But
Exactly.
sometimes it's just an unwise shot to take.
There was a lot of unwise actions that
You had
happened
no
there.
business shooting for 3 from half court, you know?
Shut
Well,
up.
Emily, to make you feel better, later in a fight with some scientists, I forgot to move out of touch range when I tried to cast invisibility, provoked an opportunity attack, in which you then killed the scientists. So we all
Suck
make our
it.
mistakes. Yeah, we all make our mistakes.
Yeah.
Respectfully. Suck it.
While they were there at this lab, they found 2 people they never expected to find. First, they found Irio, an old operative from Sedona, Mike, and Zeno's android abolitionist days. He had gone into the Aslanti Empire as a spy, but had succumbed to brainwashing and had forgotten who he was. But seeing Mike, Zeno, and Sedona snapped him back to reality, and he rounded up all the scientists that the Aslanti had imprisoned here to take him to the Epic Tracer while the rest of the crew continued their hunt for the rune drive. The second person they found at the secret lab was none other than Mike's long-lost father, Rupert. Rupert had been captured in a brutal assault on a Vesk research facility that resulted in the death of most of Mike's community, including his mother, when he was a child. Rupert was only spared because of his extensive knowledge in weaponry and armor, so the Aslanti kept him alive, but enslaved him to their wills. Mike had assumed that Rupert was dead, but through serendipity, they were able to reconnect. Finally, they found the rune drive, defeated those guarding it, and were able to put together most of the pieces on how to operate it. As they were exiting the facility, Zolan himself arrived, and the Epic Tracer crew faced him down, defeating him to the point of retreating to his starship through a fail-safe teleportation armor feature. As they emerged on the asteroid's surface, they found themselves in the middle of an orbital bombardment from Zolan's ship. It was in this tragic run from the entrance of the lab to the Epic Tracer that Sedona, Hash, and some of the scientists were killed. The Epic Tracer had also been pummeled to the point of inoperability, and all seemed lost. But Zeno had a revelation and put a plan into action. They hooked the rune drive up to the Epic Tracer, and Zeno, realizing that he was the catalyst that would make the rune drive function, placed his hands on the drive, knowing that it would disincorporate him, but would save his friends. The rest of the crew could only look on in tears as Zeno dissolved before their eyes, and the Epic Tracer seemed to be reborn in pristine and more powerful conditions. The ship was primed to blow Zolan out of the sky with ease, but the emotional damage of Sedona's death was too strong for Orin, and he called for a one-on-one duel with Zolan. The two entered a combat sphere in a fight to the death. Orin was able to defeat Zolan with a clutch moment of synergy with Sedona's spirit, her energy delivering the final blow to Zolan's mind, ending him forever. The crew immediately booked it out of Aslanti star space and made it back home together to grieve for the loss of their friends. They officially all became the Apollo Protection Agency as Ziva merged her resources from the Pools of Paradise, and the recent alliance with the Stewards emboldened and strengthened the APA to a full-on business of protection. That was Season 1.
Season 1.
Jeez.
Pretty
couple
good,
things
man.
happened.
You missed out on the power loader, though.
little-
So.
I did.
If you-
As I said,
yeah.
lots of things didn't make the cut here. Okay,
I mean, you missed
listen.
the all important power loader though. That
Yeah,
was a big
exactly.
deal for us,
That's-
Adam.
Zeno's
it was
biggest
a big
regret
deal.
right there is missing out on looting the power loader.
Okay, I'm not even going to get into it. But did I miss? I mean, okay, I didn't talk about Weldy. I didn't talk specifically about Brightbite, but this is an overarching thing. Is there anything from season 1 that you guys just want to call attention to here before I move on? Okay, I'll take that as a no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
All
think so.
So now I have to switch music because we enter season 2.
It's a whole different thing.
It's a whole different thing indeed. 6 months passed, and the crew enjoyed the fruits of their labor, though the loss of Zeno and Sedona still weighed heavily on them all. So when an invitation to come and be consultants for a new resort was extended to them, all but Oren were eager for the respite. Little did they know that this vacation would lead them to a point that nearly destroyed them inside and out. The crew, now newly minted collectively as the Apollo Protection Agency, packed up all their finest vacation wear and headed out to the diaspora to enjoy Paradise Resorts, a subsidiary of Eclipse Innovations' newest location, New Elysium. But even before they stepped foot on the resort, trouble popped up as some space pirates tried to attack the Tracer on their approach. The crew handled these pirates fairly easily, especially with the assistance of another small ship that joined the fray. The ship was piloted by Kuiper Vargas, a Patra that was also a guest of New Elysium, though his origins were a mystery.
Nice. I wanted to quickly say, sorry. Technically, I recently re-listened to that episode, and it's such a good episode. Mike was not eager to go to New Elysium. He was convinced by Ziva because she agreed to be his date to the gala.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
That's reason enough to go right there, but
Right.
I mean, like,
I mean, Madam Ziva, agrees to be your date. Like, what are you gonna do?
You don't say no.
Yeah, you don't say
if
no.
you
Well,
say
it was,
no,
it was setting up our
Somebody gonna put a
second
hit
dance
out on you.
montage,
All right. Well, after defeating the space pirates, the APA was greeted by a New Elysium's host, Philip. Our favorite little smiley
Philip.
yeah. Philip was apologetic, but all hospitality,
Of course.
and welcomed them heartily to the resort, insisting that the guests install the Keys to Elysium app on their phones to properly test out the new automated features of the resort. They were also greeted by an unexpected guest, Kaon Reese, Fell's old boss from Eclipse Innovations. Eclipse Innovations was the company that bought out his old Starship Bay mechanical repair company and eventually squeezed him out of the job in favor of robots. However, Fell and Kaon's relationship had always been positive, and the job loss didn't happen until Kaon was transferred to a different department. Yet, when Kaon saw Fell, he did not greet him as an old friend. Rather, he was angry and aggressive and told Fell to take his friends and leave. They shouldn't be there. Leaving Fell stunned and confused, Kaon boarded a ship and left the resort.
I wish we'd listened.
Over the next few days, the crew settled into the resort, befriending the other guests. Among these guests was the entirety of the Absalom Station Buzzblades, a championship Brutaris team. Things were going well for the APA, and the relaxation was needed, but it wasn't long before things started to get weird and off. The APA started having unsettling hallucinations. Some of the other guests started showing signs of abuse or illness. Things escalated to the point of the resort's medical and security team issuing a quarantine order in New Elysium. It was not the shrimp.
It wasn't. I've been saying that for years. Literally years.
It also was not the doctor, Zach. Never was.
Yeah, I guess not.
Look, that doesn't mean you weren't right about the other thing.
Right.
Still called the shrimp, though.
During all this time, Kuiper was an additional focus for the APA because something seemed off about the Patra story of being a tourism diplomat from Verces. Eventually, after the hallucinations escalated to the point of causing actual violence, Kuiper decided to come clean with the APA and tell him who he really was. An operative for the Veskarium's D9 organization.
Yeah.
On a mission to track down Keon Reese and uncover a potential plot of corruption. At this time, the APA also started to realize that something was happening to them, and they were poisoned with some sort of internal corruption, most likely derived from the Keys of Elysium app. They immediately deleted it from their comm units, but it was too late. The damage had been done. However, they were able to determine that the app was just a relay for a stronger signal emanating from somewhere deep below the surface of the resort. And so they made their way through the abandoned tunnels, mine shafts, and research facilities that Paradise Resorts had just built their resort atop of. Facing hauntings, corruption, and pure evil, the APA finally found the source of the signal in the heart of what looked to be an imploded research lab. They destroyed the broadcast device after killing a shadow baby, or a skin baby rather, only to learn that it was one of several and that a bigger launch of this corrupting signal was being planned on the planet Verces. When the APA took a lift back to the surface and into the resort, they discovered to their horror that the entire facility and all its guests had been corrupted by this evil, manifesting in gruesome wounds and homicidal behavior. To their dismay, they had to fight their way through the Buzzblades, Philip, the other guests, and the security forces of New Elysium just to escape the horror that had beset the resort. While they were victorious, this victory was bitter, as it resulted in the deaths of every living soul at New Elysium. And it only got worse from here.
Yeah.
On their way to Verces, they were intercepted by a small pocket of shadow stuff that transported them temporarily into the shadow plane, where they were visited by a research scientist by the name of Dr. Listana Gregant.
Yep.
She invited them to her lab in a nightmarish vision, tempting them to embrace their corruptions and take the power that it offered. One by one, she showed them her power and the corruption's power. And finally, when she got to Ziva, she gave her a harrowing choice. She could remove the feelings that plagued her friend, Oren. All his sadness and regret could be gone with a single stroke of a scalpel, and she would gain power in the process. The corruption within drove Ziva to do the unthinkable, and she used the scalpel to sever Oren's tether to his emotional self, and the claws of corruption ensnared her heart. Then they were all back on the ship, waking up in their beds as if this was only some fading nightmare. Yet they all know the truth. They were doomed, and if they did not stop the corruption at its source, they would all succumb.
Turn that signal jammer on, man. Come on.
That's all we needed to do. I wouldn't even have had to, do that if we just would have turned the signal jammer on.
Yeah, we would have just turned the signal jammer on in episode 1, dude.
But they didn't have any idea how to find this doctor. What they did have was the information that the entire planet of Verces was facing the same fate of New Elysium. So they steeled their resolve and continued their trek to Verces. After arriving there, settling into a hotel and making contact with Fell's parents, they went to Eclipse Innovations HQ, only to find it had been abandoned, with the exception of a few tech employees that were basically zombies, only animated by a chip inserted into their brains. What they did discover is that Keon Reese had completed a full-on corporate coup and was effectively running Eclipse Innovations from a shadow location called the Black Site. It confirmed Fell's fears that his once friend was now completely ensnared by Gregant's corruption. They also discovered that there were 3 towers that were going to be used to distribute the corruption signal via a new social media app called Penumbra. They were further dismayed to find that Fell's parents, Frank and Martha, had recently acquired this app as well. Not only were the APA's souls at stake, but now Frank and Martha and all the other citizens of Verces. And this was only a further test before Keon Reese, through Eclipse Innovations, took this signal to the Pact Worlds and beyond. So, the APA immediately got to work dismantling the signal boosters at the 3 locations around Verces' capital city of Kuvakara. This is where you guys became gangsters too, by the way. The Nissan Armada was a big deal here. Lots of that was the run the jewels era of the APA.
About it. Also, I'm gonna bring up the bit of Fell getting locked in. The child safety locks in the back seat.
That's right. Got child locked in.
I really dug the Absalom Buzzblades connection thing. Like when we did our flashbacks, getting a big moment with Mike's dad at the Buzzblades game was really cool. I just sent y'all a picture in our APA chat of my 3 fantasy football teams this year, and I've had the Absalom Buzzblades as my primary fantasy football team for
awesome.
like 4 years. And my other 2 teams are the Absalom Assailants, which is before this adventure came out, the stated team for Absalom. I just think of them as New York. They got 2 teams. And my third team's We'll See You.
While the APA was successful by and large with dismantling these signal boosters, they almost lost Fel and Ziva to Black Lotus poison at a dance club.
Yeah.
An assassin, an assassin disguised as a pop star invited them to join in a bottle service at the club, using the wine as the delivery system for the poison. However, the APA are not so easily defeated, and they saved their mechanic from the clutches of death.
Shoot, I remember doing the math on that.
Oh man,
It was close.
It was
And,
so
and
close.
there was a long wait between sessions
Episodes,
when
yeah.
we okay, Fell's poisoned. You got to wait 2 weeks to figure out what was going to happen, and the entire time I'm sitting there running the numbers, and it was even with all of the help, it was still a very low percentage.
Yeah,
It was like 30 something, 40 something % chance of surviving.
Well, and Black Lotus poison, that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the most powerful poison in the game?
it's one of them. It's a level 20 poison for sure. So, and you guys were like what, level 8 or 9 at this point?
Yeah.
Maybe 9 or 10. Yeah,
I remember that hitting and being like, "What the fuck is that doing here? We're
Right.
too
Yeah.
low for
Right.
this."
You added this. They didn't put this in the adventure.
Yeah.
They wouldn't
This is
have.
entirely too strong for where we
nobody
are.
believed me.
Adam's trying to get his kill in.
Yeah.
Almost did. So after dismantling these signals, the next place for them was the Black Site, located deep in the cold mountains of the dark side of Verces. Their flight there was intercepted by an Eclipse Innovation starship. This starship was piloted by the corrupted, and as such, their kamikaze efforts caught the APA by surprise and resulted in the famed Epic Tracer being forced into a crash landing. With exceptional piloting by Orin, they managed to crash land the Tracer with as minimal injury as possible. But alas,
I rolled a
it was
nat
still-
20 on that, didn't I?
did.
Yes, you did.
It was still no longer able to fly. Leaving their dormant starship at their backs, they trudged through the snow to the entrance of the Black Site, each step feeling like a step closer to the inevitable fracture of their psyches, their captain losing her grip the most. The horrors that they faced throughout the Black Site were relentless, oppressive, and mind-breaking. All they found was darkness, horror, violence, and evil, until they finally came face to face with Kaon. Fel and Mike had both believed there was hope to bring Kaon back from corruption, feeling there must be a way. But this was more likely them convincing themselves that they could be saved from the same corruption. It was confirmed that Kaon had gone beyond saving the moment they laid eyes on him. The Kaon that Fel had known and loved was gone, replaced by this hollowed-out shell of a Verthani that stood before them. The battle was hard and ugly, and at the end, just when they thought they had defeated Kaon, one of his corrupted henchmen plunged their blade into Ziva's heart as she collapsed lifeless to the ground. Orin rushed to her side to revive her with his healing magic, but as he did so, both were enveloped in a shadow substance, and then they were gone.
Yep.
The rest of the APA could only stare in shock and horror as 2 of their own, one possibly dead, just disappeared from their presence. Yet with no time to grieve, they had to stop a swelling rip between the planes as the shadow plane threatened to swallow the Black Site and then Verces in whole. Fel got to work, but then, moments later, 2 Kyle twins appeared before them, looking for someone they called the Herald, but the APA called the Captain. The APA, forced to trust them in this moment, followed them back into the shadow plane, hoping to find their captain, but not before saying goodbye to Fel, who had to stay behind to close this planar tear to save Verces from its shadowy fate. Having to say goodbye to yet another member of the APA, Mike and Kuiper embraced Fel, knowing that the odds of his survival were slim to none. But there was no other way, and so they went through the portal into the shadow plane. Arriving there, they discovered that the Kyle twins had been tricked, and that their captain, or the Herald as Tenna and Trelax called her, had been taken along with Orin and Xeno 6. Oh yeah, that is like a whole other thing, but Xeno is back because of Grogant's choice to... You know what? You're just going to have to listen back for that story.
No, let's go back into that convoluted
No,
backstory.
bring that down. Come on.
We also did not mention the CSV in this, did we?
Not
No.
yet.
Anyway, Ziva, Orin, and Xeno had all been taken by an evil dream sorcerer named Mordrin, who was promised great power if he delivered Ziva to the Midnight Lord, Zon-Kuthon. Overwhelmed by these losses and this news, Mike and Kuiper had no choice to just press forward in the shadow plane, discover where Dr. Grogant was, and hope that defeating her and the corruption would somehow save their friends in the process. Led by the shadow plane natives, Mike and Fel met the Kyle Enclave and helped them push back the Eclipse Kyle that they were engaged in civil war with. Then they made their way to the shadow version of Skydock. It was there that they found a sect of Kuthites who worshipped the pain but did not impose it on others, raising the question of the ideas of what Zon-Kuthonism is. But there was no time for religious study, and they were tasked with clearing the Skydock from a corrupted mechanic that had turned the Starship hub into a bay of horror. After clearing the dock, the newly tongue-in-cheek named Shadow Protection Agency were able to procure a shadow copy of the tracer and fly to Dr. Grogant's lab, which was in the exact location of New Elysium, but in the shadow plane. Upon arrival, they found that New Elysium's asteroid was completely encased in a human heart. The absurdity of it all, at this point, pushing Mike and Kuiper further into madness. As Mike, Kuiper, Tenna, Trelax, and Gloombot fought their way through the heart and then back through the resort and into Grogant's lab, a bond grew between them. Mike also felt the presence of Xeno in his mind, knowing that somehow, someway, Xeno was alive, as well as Ziva and Orin. The many stages of Dr. Grogant's descent were represented in the enemies that the SPA had to slay as they progressed their way through her lab. The closer they got to her, the more the darkness pulled at their soul, Kuiper nearly succumbing to his corruption. Finally, they meet Dr. Grogant face to face, but she was prepared for them, and they are clearly outmatched and overwhelmed. Yet their resilience perseveres, and they fight knowing that they have to destroy the shadow generator or all is lost. They all put their lives on the line to achieve this, and while they do destroy the generator, they also face their own death as a result. Meanwhile, Xeno, Orin, and Ziva were all trapped in a mind prison created by Mordrin. Mordrin did not anticipate Xeno's connection to the rune drive, which the sorcerer had used to create this prison. As a result, Xeno was able to manipulate the mind prison using the code of the rune drive. He pulled Orin and Ziva out of their torturous nightmares, infinitely looping their worst fears and memories. The three of them together drew Mordrin into his own mind prison, hoping to fight him and destroy him from within. But Mordrin was powerful and devious and created a trap for Ziva, causing her to be fully encased in her corruption. All seemed lost until the APA, back in the Shadow Lab, destroyed the device causing the corruption. This weakened Mordrin as he lost his shadowy power while also rejuvenating Ziva. She came back whole, reborn, and full of light, and the three of them destroyed Mordrin, escaped his mind prison, and used the rune drive to teleport to the Shadow Lab to save the SPA, who were suffering greatly in their fight against Dr. Grogant.
No big deal.
Just an average
Light
Tuesday,
work.
basically. Yeah.
Tenna and Mike.
Mordrin almost got a kill
Oh,
on
yeah, he did. Yeah.
Tenna and Mike are both laid out by Grogant with no way to recover. It looked as if two more protection agents would be claimed by the darkness. Hope was lost. But then, out of this darkness, Orin emerges, all starfire and light. In the very last moments, Orin is there to bring Tenna back from the brink of death. piecing together her exploded brain, skull everywhere.
Thanks, dog. Thanks, dog.
Yeah, the exploded brain.
Slap a band-aid on that.
Yeah.
And then he revives the toughest goddamn Vesk that you've ever seen, saving the APA and the SPA in one heroic swoop. The Shadow Corruption and Dr. Gregant were defeated, but their work wasn't done. Fel was still not there, and they discovered a whole chamber dedicated to cloning Gregant. There was a young Listana in the cloning chamber, and they decided to save her rather than destroy her. But one problem remained. How were they going to get back to the material plane? Again, Xeno had the answer. But again, it was at the cost of his existence. Mike and the rest of the APA had to say goodbye to Xeno again. But they also had to say goodbye to the SPA. It was tearful, but cathartic. Their harrowing, terrifying battle with corruption, their inner evil, and separation was nearly complete. After the sad goodbyes, Xeno used the rune drive again to transport them back to the material plane. But this time his body could not take the effects, and he was incorporated into the rune drive itself. The rune drive that had been prepared for by Fel. Fel had survived his experience at the Black Site, saved by the CSV and D9. Together, they repaired the Epic Tracer and prepared the engine room to receive the rune drive after a brief telepathic communication with Xeno. The reunion was joyful, as all were reunited again, but the specter of Xeno loomed. However, not too long after, Xeno revealed himself as an ascended intelligence that was now part of the Epic Tracer.
Yep.
Whew, Season 2.
Season 2, man. What a fucking roller coaster that
Fucking
was.
doozy. Okay.
Yeah.
I've just got to say, when the SPA and APA like split ways, that was just like a normal goodbye for Gloombot.
All right.
This is fine.
We'll see, I guess.
Man, I'm still mad at y'all for making Mike go through losing his friend twice. But I just made myself sad. You ever do that? Just make yourself sad?
Oh, yeah.
All the fucking time.
I did, because I was thinking about
First
that.
time.
And then I thought to myself, I was like, I wonder if Mike's gotten past that yet. You know, I wonder if he's had any catharsis. And I was like,
oh, baby. Oh, baby.
he's dead.
All right, just a little bit more to go. 45 minutes into this full-on recap episode.
I love it.
But I think it's important. 3 years passed after the APA's horrific vacation. Mike and Kuiper became deep friends as they visited the Veskarian to study the ways of Demoratosh. Orin and Ziva cleansed a temple of Ibra that had been desecrated by Kuthites. The APA continued to bolster their reputation and presence as the de facto security of Absalom Station. And Ziva traded her title of Madam for Councilwoman as she moved into a career of politics. Things were relatively calm for the APA. Rupert passed peacefully during those years, but not without Mike really getting to relish some time with his father. Then they were approached by some Xeno Wardens who had a mission for the Apollo Protection Agency. In a faraway planet called Jeterat, a dig site for another new resort had uncovered some ancient alien ruins, and in the process unleashed a planet-wide virus that caused all tech to go on the fritz and also created a never-ending blizzard. Now normally the APA at this point would have sent some of their lower-ranked squads to handle this, but Weldy, a friend or at least acquaintance from their time on Nikondas, was at the root of this incident and also trapped in the ruins. So, APA themselves went to Jeterat and uncovered the disturbing truth that these ruins were from an ancient tyrannical civilization called the Civ. The very species that had created the stellar degenerator superweapon that had been discovered and destroyed in Dead Suns. Not only had the ancient tech awoken, but it sent a signal to a supership that had been lost in space for millions of years. A Civ destroyer called the Ark Prime. The APA had to fly to the moon that housed the Bantrids, a species that had been subjugated by the Civ all those years ago, and had been cryogenically frozen until about 5 years prior when they all emerged at once, unaware of their history. The APA discovered that the Bantrid moon was actually another supership called the World Seed, and it was this ship that had sent the signal to the Ark Prime. They rushed back to Absalom Station to share what they knew with the Pact Council, and then they could only wait to see if this dread ship would emerge in the Pact worlds. Of course it did, and the APA immediately went into emergency response mode. They helped the Pact Council place their defenses. They helped the Adari by sending reinforcements to fend off the approaching Ark Prime. They shored up defenses. They tried to save a rogue squadron of Eoxians that thought foolishly that they could take on the Ark Prime themselves, but failed. Then, the Ark Prime arrived in Absalom Station's orbit and unleashed a devastating quantum ray on the space station, catapulting Absalom into darkness and chaos. The APA responded. They fought ancient tree spirits, devils, trolls, and befriended angels. They evacuated citizens to the pools of paradise, only after dealing with Zolan's mother and a Velstrak overlord.
Oh, yeah.
They went into the Starstone housing area to reactivate the generators to try to get power back to the station. It was there they discovered a Time Lord and his pet Hound of Tyndalos. The Time Lord's plan was to help remove the Starstone to stop Absalom from being the center of destiny, or some shit such as that. While they did stop the Time Lord, they also lost the heart of the APA. Titanium Mike fell to this foe, doing what he does best, defending the people he loves. It was a devastating blow after an extremely long and grueling day. But again, they had no time to rest or grieve. The quantum ray's effects were increasing, and the damage to Absalom Station was becoming critical. It was time to take the fight to the Civ, and the APA loaded up into the Epic Tracer along with the Armada, engaged in an epic assault on the Ark Prime. Successful in their attack, the Epic Tracer was able to bypass the shields and land on the Ark Prime. And after a harrowing run across the surface, they encountered a dragon that had been indoctrinated by Civ propaganda. They defeated the dragon, and the last thing they saw before they entered the Ark was the edges of the Starstone starting to breach the station, causing utter destruction in its wake. Phew.
Yep. That's what happened.
Congratulations. You done it.
You did a good job, man.
So yeah, thanks for tuning in to our look back episode. But you guys have done a lot, and I just think before we get truly into this end game situation, it was worth looking back and seeing how far you guys have come since episode 1, and this 5 years or so of in-game time has passed, and a lot of things have happened in those 5 years. So thank you all for indulging me in that recap and for participating as well. But we'll try to get some forward progression in this episode as well. And so we're going to go back into the Ark Prime, where you find yourselves in this, I guess, prison room, or, whatever you want to call it. The book calls it, I will tell you.
Pod bay.
That might be what it is called.
I have a question. So these are all
VR lab. These are all like the pods that we were in are like humanoid, medium-sized creature sized, right?
How they do
But
that
we
dragon?
fought an indoctrinated dragon. Do they have a dragon-sized pod somewhere in here?
So you're assuming that they're medium-sized? They're not.
I'm just looking at the 10 feet that they take up on the map, the 2 squares.
No. You're
Quantum tech, man.
They have a different, much larger room with 5 dragon-sized pods. The room itself is hundreds of feet.
Nah, they just shoved that baby in there with rail state tech.
okay. So you guys find yourselves in this VR lab. You've just defeated the liquidation units that came, and I will say that while nothing is secure, nothing is 100%, you feel like you finally have a moment here to catch your breath and just be. There is no more. The klaxons have stopped. The imminent threats of it's all shut down, and it's just quiet in this room. You have no idea what awaits you on the other side of this room, but you have a new companion with you guys, and I would like you guys to take this moment to introduce yourselves.
Can we short rest?
Absolutely,
Okay.
100%.
All right.
I would like to characterize my short rest as just like engaging.
Spending a resolve point and getting all your stamina back.
Just like engaging in the new guy in the room.
Sure, like that can all just be done kind of collectively.
Right.
Yeah. The first thing I think Orin would be concerned about the crew. You know, is everyone okay?
Yeah,
How are your limbs?
I'm good. I'm actually, I feel pretty good, man. All things considered.
Yeah. Kuiper is
before you get too deep in this, I will say that you do feel extremely rejuvenated to the point of gained power. I mean, you gained a level's worth of power in there, and you before this fight, you had the full effects of like an extremely like healthy long rest. Like, you feel powerful and strong and good, just like Phil was saying. I just want to confirm that is the case as you guys came out of these pods.
Okay. So anyway, did anybody else find having an ass neck extremely uncomfortable, or was that just me?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it was awful.
Yeah, not a fan.
I didn't care for it.
No, of course not. I mean, despite of it being an amputee, I still kind of feel the phantom limbs of like 8 different tentacles still.
It's a little
I
wiggly.
can still feel the phantom wigglies, yes.
I mean, I've got 4 arms and it's still way too many appendages.
Yeah, by the way, you. What the hell are you doing here, man?
Alright, so gather around. Let's powwow. I apologize for the caginess earlier, but now that we've escaped this god's awful simulation, allow me a moment to properly introduce myself, for I was, in a way, unable to make myself plain to you all in the simulation. My name is Valtressus Raish Elbaquan. My line descends from the great family Raish of the homeworld Kassath. I'm a member of the Raish clan called Elba. My family represents the Elba minor clan called Quan. Hence all the names, right? We're getting there. I see your face, Orin. Calm down.
Ziva is in this. She is.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to add in here, he called you Orin. That's because you guys are all famous, the APA. So
yeah, I was gonna ask, like, did he know us?
Yeah.
Assumingly, I wonder how Val feels about realizing that he's, just run into the APA on this.
So he had to know in the simulation, though. Like hearing us call each other by names once we were all lucid enough.
You can't be sure of what
The combination
is going on,
of Fel, Ziva, and Kuiper. and
what I'm
Orin.
going to say is that lots of things were going on in that simulation. You didn't have full scope of your memories for a good portion of that, and that he might have had some sort of intuition, but as soon as he saw your faces, like your faces are known.
Yeah.
In the packed worlds, like
And all together, right? If we're all together in a group.
Right.
Of course, I'm sure he'd wonder, like, what happened to Titanium Light, But anyway, sorry to interrupt you, man. Go ahead.
I'm going to take a step back for just a second, because this may be my last opportunity to ever do this. And I just wanted to briefly say that it's time for a long introduction. It's a long introduction.
All right, that earned you an inspiration. Heath, go ahead and roll a
Valtressus
d6.
Got it. I don't know if you stuck the landing right there, Thean. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Well, I was interrupted for the second time in the last 2 minutes.
That's all right. Go ahead and roll a d6 there, buddy.
Okay.
I love that he told you that's all right.
Also,
It's
one of
all
our
right
earliest
that I
jokes.
interrupted you, yep. 3.
Well, it is because you're getting an inspiration out of it. 3, all right. So roll a d12 for me.
Okay. Another 3.
All right. This is from Ben/Cupcake, one of our newer listeners.
A new father, if I...
Yes. And I can't believe how appropriate this is. In the words of the great Kasathan warrior philosopher, Nai Aki of Akaton, just do it. Go get him is the final bit of that. So there you go.
I love it.
That's good.
That's good. All right.
Taking
Excellent.
a note. Yeah, so he gives you the rundown of why he has so many names. That's a Kasatha thing. They all honor all their clans and sub-clans and stuff.
But you good with us just calling you Val, right?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, I didn't want to be disrespectful by not saying the whole thing every time.
No, well, that would be, I'm not a Tribe Called Quest. I am, however,
Slickback.
just to give you the sort of quick rundown of what I'm about. I am an athlete, I'm a monk, I'm a traveler, I'm a soldier of the world ship Adari, and a chronicler of heroes in my free time. In all actions, I hope to honor both the god of my people, Talavet, the storyteller, and the god of my own discovery, Waden the Explorer. I've dedicated my life to the desire to honor my fellow Kasathans by collecting stories of heroes to contribute to our collective history, and in so doing, it would appear that I, myself, have come to join the history of the Pact Worlds through the good fortune that allowed you, the APA, to cross my path and save me from the machinations of the Civ. My strength is yours, if you'll have me. For having seen the atrocities of the Civ, I cannot allow their history to become our reality. Now I'll open up the table to questions. I know you're all curious.
Out of character, Emily wants so desperately to hug Val and just be like, oh my god, you're the cutest fucking thing.
There will be a hug segment after the questionnaire.
That's fair.
And you notice, just out of character, more of a confidence in his speaking voice. Like when you were in the simulation or Sivvulations, there was almost a childlike quality to Val. Like this feels like a different person than it did in the simulation. Right? The same person. This is not like a big mystery or whatever. I mean, like, there's questions you can ask, but like, he feels more sure of himself.
Okay. Yeah.
And less. It was almost as though he was like fearful and kind of retreating into himself in the simulation.
He'd also been in the Sivvulations a little bit longer than you guys had been.
Right.
Quick question. Do I recall him having his weapon in the simulation? Does Ziva recall that?
Yes.
Okay. As we kind of like, listening in and everything, would look around and say, we're all missing something of ours. Are you had a weapon? Yes.
Yes, my staff is, I don't know where it's at. I know that we're in a precarious situation, but if we could find that, it would mean the world to me, and as would Oren's rifle Sedona.
How do you know so much about us, man?
You're the APA.
I am the chronicler of heroes.
I'm a chronicler of heroes in my
We're the most
spare
famous
time.
heroes in the fucking
You guys
backworlds.
have been, if you're not aware, which you've been quite busy, you guys have been, I mean, you've taken the Pact Worlds by storm over the last few years. Like, stories of you have been all over the place. Now, aside from that, you guys met with the council on Absalom, right? And you had something to do with sending out the fleets to all the different places. I'm a soldier. I'm a leader of the fleet for the Adari. That's how I ended up here. I was a defender of the Adari. I was part of the defense force.
That was the Adari ship that we saw on the surface.
Yeah, the Sandstone Squawks. That was my ship.
That's the
That's the name.
It's very cute.
It's a
That's
great
a good
name.
name.
But I gotta be honest here with you, Val. All this fame associated with
I
the
would
APA?
imagine you don't like it, yes.
Okay, all right. All right.
Got
We gotta have to talk about personal boundaries here, man. Okay.
No. But Val,
Ziva pats you on the or no one is. It's not a personal boundary.
And you
Everybody
see,
knows you don't like
you see
everything.
Val from his pack like pull out a small but thick kind of notebook and like lick his finger and pull to a page and like make a little note and closes it and doesn't say anything, puts it back.
Val, what's the weirdest thing you know about me?
I've heard that you briefly dated a cuttlefish.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well,
You know what? I don't want to ask that question.
on the bright
I
side,
don't need
it
to
makes the introductions a lot easier.
Yes, I'm well aware of who all you are. Honestly, I was a bit starstruck once we regained our faculties and could realize who we were. It took me a little bit, and you guys kind of saying each other's names. I couldn't obviously identify you from your looks, but I realized after a bit that you were in fact the APA. That's partially responsible for my trepidation in getting to really discuss anything with you or reveal anything to you. You guys are, your reputation precedes you. I was a bit scared that if you, I don't know, I knew we were in a simulation, but you can die in the simulation, so I was worried if I made a wrong move or a wrong statement, you might just, and he does the slice the throat kind of thing.
Well, I will say this, Val. We are very grateful for your being here. And she kind of has been listening and been smiling this whole time, because he's just a cutie. But it sort of dawns on her. She says, we are grateful to have you, as we are, we are down a man, so...
Yes,
I'm happy to have you along.
Indeed.
yes, I've followed the exploits of the APA to what degree I could when I had time, but you, as I said, you're quite well known, and I didn't want to bring anything up.
So, I'm sorry, just a point of order here. You probably wouldn't know that Mike died because this is you were here.
I think he was going to
Already.
say, bring up the fact that Mike is not with the four of us.
Yeah,
Sure, I just wanted to get
But,
some
yeah,
timelines,
just to clarify.
some timelines adjusted. That's all.
Yeah.
But Val would know if he has followed the APA. It would be, I think, immediately obvious that the fucking
it would
poster
certainly
boy of
be-
the APA was not with us.
Right.
Yeah.
It would certainly be weird.
Right. Well, but that's what I was trying to get to. I couldn't help but notice that Titanium Mike, who is as famous, if not more famous, than all of you, is not with you. Is he on another mission? Or
Something
We've had a
like
hell of a
that.
day, Val.
We lost him.
could you,
We lost him on Absalom Station
recently.
at the hands of this multiplanar being. He died for the cause.
and he does he kind of crosses both arms and does what you would gather is a religious symbol, or motion. It says, I very much apologize. I don't mean to open up recently opened wounds, but I do apologize for your loss, and it's a
Val,
great disappointment for me to not be able to have met such a famed warrior.
to be fair, Val, the wounds haven't exactly had time to mend at all.
Yeah, I understand.
And
I
trying
I do apologize.
And seeing the how the tension has kind of become palpable at this revelation that Mike didn't make it. Kuiper is, I guess, kind of interjects there for a moment and is just trying to change the subject a little bit. He says, anyway, a key adept, eh? I've never met you type before. I've always figured that you're just a lot of mad bastards. I mean, being able to go into fights with no contemporary weaponry, you know?
Yes, well, there's a long tradition of such fighting styles on the Adari. When I was a child, I was trained in the ways of Televet, the god of our people, and through that, I was also trained in the fighting styles traditional to Kasathan culture. And, you know, part of why I was a bit timid in the simulations is I especially before we regained our sense of self, right? I think I sort of reverted to a childlike state, right? Like when I was a kid, I actually wasn't too keen on training in the ways of the warrior of Kassath. I was a book nerd, right? So even to this day, I'm kind of a warrior scholar, is what my people would refer to me as, and I don't relish violence, though I've had, you know, my fair share of it in defense of the Adari and on my travels. So, you know, I don't know, to answer your question, yeah, I trained as a monk for years in the Adari, and then I went on my walkabout to, you know, when you come of age as a Kasatha, you kind of go out into the universe and you're expected to come back with notable skills or things you can help the Kasatha with, and my passion has always been researching heroes such as yourselves and trying to learn everything I could, particularly in terms of fighting styles. And in fact, I don't mean to bring up Mike again, but I'd been trying to learn everything I could about Titanium Mike and duplicate anything I could of his fighting styles, and I actually think I picked up a few things just from sort of the grapevine.
Right, well, as someone who's personally trained with Mike, he certainly broke my perception that you need contemporary weaponry to be formidable. So, I'm very much appreciative that you decide to use this fighting style, and I'm glad to see that we have a capable soldier amongst our crew.
Well, you know, at best a pale imitation of the legend who was Titanium Mike, but if you'll have me, I would love to help in any way I can. I am, if I don't, you know, I don't like to toot my own horn, as they say, but I can handle myself.
Well, Val, even if you couldn't, man, it's gonna take a lot of fighting probably to get out of this one.
Well,
we're gonna need to work together.
Well, the most valuable weapon is determination.
I like that.
Gosh,
I like
love
that.
you so much. You're so precious.
Look at the chronicler over here. Those little wise phrases. All right, that's
yes,
nice.
If we could get back my staff, that would be amazing. What? And Sedona, I know you want back as well. Famed weapon, Sedona. I don't even know why
I speak anymore.
I know that Sedona means a lot to you. I'm trying really hard to not come across as a fanboy, but I absolutely am. You guys, I'm a little bit starstruck, and the fact that I've been able to hold it together this long and seem not insane is a big win for me. So I know Sedona means a lot to you. In the same way, my staff means a lot to me. I actually trained with famed Kasatha warrior Nai Aki and gained that weapon through completing my training.
I've heard that name. An illustrious trainer, indeed.
Yeah. So if we could find those, I'd like to call back to the primary lesson I learned from Nai Aki. Let's just do it.
Yes.
Come on now.
Yes. And I feel like during this entire thing, like Kuiper has been smoking one of his like Don Juan cigarillos, but also just to
those are bad for you, right?
Hey, it's a habit. I can't break it, but
life's too short.
Life is too short. You understand where we are, right? And
yes, Mr. Kuiper, I understand.
But the lighter that he uses is a Zippo that Mike had. So he's using that right now.
All right. Well, listen, Val, I need to do something if we're gonna get through this together.
All right, just do it.
And Oren is he's preparing to break the telepathic bond that's currently the bond currently still functions between the four of us. right? But Mike is also linked to that bond, and Orin knows that he has to break it, and he hasn't wanted to break it. And before he does, he actually reaches out in his like telepathic channel in the same way that he would directly to Mike, and just says, "Mike, you there?" And gets nothing, and breaks the bond.
Yeah.
Just resigned. And
Wait, I was.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Why you gotta make me misty-eyed, Zach?
Yeah, dude.
but then he will, gather everyone up and recoalesce the bond and bring Val into this telepathic link that we all have, and asks telepathically, testing.
Yeah, well, I think Val recognizes the significance, if not the entire context of that. This is a meaningful act, and again, kind of like goes into an almost meditative state. Crosses his forearms across each other. But upon hearing the testing, he says, "Yes, is this thing on?"
Yeah, we got you.
Is this thing on?
Yeah, you don't have to yell.
Oh, all
It
right.
works telepathically. You can communicate with all of us now.
Well, that is very useful and explains a lot in the simulation, sort of interstitial spaces. There was periods where you just weren't saying a fucking word, and I was just standing there like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah, we sorry, we get used to doing this.
I imagine
that
it
makes
looks a little
sense.
weird.
It becomes second nature after a while.
Yeah, I just felt like I was, at a party where I didn't know anybody, and just like, all right.
Yeah, well, I understand, but you also should understand the need for secrecy or
Yeah,
security.
discretion, sure.
Discretion, indeed. Yeah.
Yes, and again, like I'm honored that you would trust me with such, and I said numerous times in the simulations that I would prove myself to you. I think that was me kind of reverting to my, as a child, I felt the need to prove myself to anyone, but I do still feel that with you guys. You have a reputation, and it's well deserved, and I will do everything I can to live up to the space that I'm filling for Titanium Mike, the legend, the hero.
Listen, nobody can replace Titanium Mike.
I don't want to.
He was the best of us.
I just want to honor him.
The way that we can honor him is by getting the hell off of this ship after we blow it straight to Kingdom Come.
Absolutely.
Well said. Well, Val, welcome to the circle. Talking about the telepathy.
Right. Thank you. And Val quickly kind of walks over and face to face with Ziva. It says, being that we've made this official, I just wanted to say, Captain, I'm glad to be aboard. Whatever you need of me, I will not balk.
Ziva's throat kind of wobbles a little bit, that is very good. We are happy to have you. One last thing before we get going. Might I have a piece of hair, please? Just a single strand.
I'm a Kasatha. We don't have hair.
No hair whatsoever? No eyebrows? Nothing?
Maybe. Oh, yeah, eyebrow. Okay. Blip. Hands you an eyebrow hair.
Thank you. And she pops open what looks to be a very complicated looking compass. And there are 4 slots in it, one of which has a green scale. She pulls the scale out and she opens up her, her hidden limb, basically, the little slot on her arm.
hideaway limb,
And
I think is what
slides
it's
it.
called, right?
Yeah, hideaway.
Yeah, hideaway limb, thank you. Places the scale inside, closes that, and then puts your hair inside the compass. And as she closes it, the needle just and points directly at you. Just in case. Just in case.
All right. Yep. I trust you implicitly.
You know you're walking into certain death with us, right?
I
It's not like he has anywhere else to go.
Yeah,
Well,
fair
I-
enough, Phil.
I already got shot down onto this ship and made it past the dragon. So that's not to brag, but like I'm well aware that we're in dire straits.
He's so polite, you guys. It's so refreshing. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
we'll break that out of
She
you
cuts
soon enough.
eyes. She cuts eyes at Oren, and she's like, "It's so refreshing."
That's great to hear. Like, look, I'm a joy. What are you talking about? I know you're not talking about me right now, but like, come on.
So before we end this little soiree, I just wanted to ask real quick, like, you guys were all able to see I made a hero forge of the character, right?
Yeah.
Have we talked at all about what he actually looks like?
No, let's do that.
I think so.
Yeah.
He's got a orange and yellow sort of aesthetic theme, I would say, right? Very much in monk-like attire.
Monastic style. Yeah.
Monastic attire, indeed, yes.
Cloth and metal are the themes here.
Yeah, he does have a hood with a typical Kasathan face mask. He's got his staff. He's also got a book and a tea set.
Yeah,
Pot of tea and a cup.
adorable. I wanted to say this real quick, and Ziva almost brought this up, but I wondered if Val didn't kind of retreat back into himself when we were in the Sivvulation because he didn't have on a mask.
Oh, yeah, that actually probably was a pretty big psychological part of it. It's like he's never, like, other than in the most private of moments, not had a mask on. You know, that's the Kasatha thing.
Just wanting to say, out of character, that I love this character. I think it's such a fantastic concept to have a chronicler of heroes run across the APA and just already know all about them and everything. Brilliant narrative move.
So Val wrote the recap that I just read, is all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
That's from Val's book. So he has a book in his hand, and I will say, so he mentioned in his introduction, and this is it's a minor thing, but it's something that I was really keen on trying to express, because it's an idea I've had for a long time, because I find it limiting in such a crazy world as you know, the Starfinder universe, that like you're supposed to only have one deity, right? And so the Kasatha are steeped in tradition. Tradition is a very big part of who they are, and Val is into that, right? Like, he loves the tradition of the Kasatha people, but he also is very into individuality, and he's done a lot of traveling. His it's kind of the thing where he went on his walkabout and he didn't come back, you know, for a good while. So the god of his people, or Talavet, the storyteller, the god of the Kasathans, is about telling good stories, and those stories having meaning in your life and passing them down to other generations, hence the chronicler of heroes. But on his own, he was fascinated with traveling and learning about new cultures and learning about the heroes and the stories of other cultures. And so he personally is very invested in Waydon and feels a connection to Waydon, right? So he's dual theistic, right? Like
I think
but in a world where the gods are demonstrably real, you know, like, why can't you buy into two of them?
What I'm thinking is that it has more to do with the gods' own vanity than anything else. They want you to worship them and only them. You know what I'm saying? Is like my initial thought. I'm sure it differs
and those
deity to
two
deity
deities, I don't think, really have a lot of that vibe. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
so I didn't see any conflict between the two.
No,
you know?
I don't either.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that
dude,
that
who's
melts
gonna stop
perfectly.
you, bro? Like,
Right.
who's gonna stop you? But no, I
Not those gods.
I love the character, and also I don't want to gloss over the fact that you said he is basically a commander of a fleet, essentially of
Yeah, I mean, he's level 19 now. He just leveled up, but he was level 18,
Right.
so he was like in a command position over a fleet that was sent. You know, when you guys allocated fleets to protect the Adari, and essentially what you did is had fleets go out and try to distract the ship so that its collision course with the Adari was interrupted, right? He was a leader of one of those ships or whatever, and got shot down.
So, I mean, obviously, we're looking at a level 18, level 19 character here. This is a very powerful individual in his own right. You know, he's like, he may not have the fame that the APA does, but he's, you know,
I imagine
on
among
par
his
in
own
terms of
people,
skill
he
level.
does. You know?
Yeah,
it's
right,
probably pretty
right.
isolated to the Kasatha. Though.
But
Yeah.
he's very much seasoned, is what you're getting at.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 He's
and I
spring
feel like
chicken.
it would be hard to kind of gauge age in a Kasatha, what with their mask coverings and all that. But I mean, he's not, an 18-year-old kid or whatever.
Sure,
He's
Yeah.
traveled the Pact Worlds and beyond, near space and stuff for years, gathering these stories. And like, so my core concept as a chronicler of heroes, which narratively was very awesome to tie to you guys, was also like the focus for me was that he goes and travels because of his belief in Waydown to all these different civilizations and just like lives an ascetic life, like very few possessions, takes odd jobs or whatever, but is constantly asking the people everywhere he goes, tell me about the stories of your people. Who are the heroes? What stories do you have that are unique to your culture? Are there any living legends? Can I meet them? Can I go train with them? And he has spent his life doing that. And he is at level 19, he would be one of the premier martial artists in the fucking universe, because he has gone and learned martial arts tidbits here and there from hundreds of heroes.
Right. Right.
He's just humble to the point of not having sought
Well,
his own fame.
because of all that, you learn how to be wise, right? Like part of martial arts is like centering yourself and not letting your ego get in the way of.
Yeah, well, and he had to take his lumps too,
Yeah.
even though I was kind of intentionally making a reference and a joke, but Nayaki now is that's canon.
It's canon. It's
But
canon.
he had to complete his
Yeah.
training, so there were probably several powerful masters he had to go and complete training courses with, much like the School of Demoritage.
Yeah.
He may have briefly
probably-
gone to the School
he
of
probably
Demoritage.
did.
Yeah, I'm
know?
curious now, Yeah.
After he found out that Mike and Kuiper went, he was like, shit, I got to get me some of that.
Right.
Well, look, this is awesome. Great introduction.
Yeah,
He's
sorry
great
to be
character.
self-indulgent, but thank you for letting me reveal all that.
We've been waiting on this.
It's allowed. It's allowed.
That was always allowed.
But
It was always allowed.
I'm gonna push a couple things forward here. So,
I'll allow it.
you guys are having this introduction and everything's, you get a better understanding of who Val is and value maybe a little bit of that initial nerves of being starstruck starts to pull away as you are welcomed into their circle. And you guys did all level up, and we're not doing traditional level ups here just because you leveled up, in a simulation, and we don't have time to do a ship travel type thing. But to that point, Oren, as you're having this conversation, it's wrapping up. I'll say the rest of you see Oren suddenly collapse to the ground.
Oh, fuck.
Like his eyes just roll back and he just collapses to the ground. And you're all, what's going on? Try to shake him. Nothing happens. And then he comes back to himself. And Oren, what I will tell you is that you experienced your first transcendence.
Okay.
It just kind of happened to you, right? This is a new thing, and so it happened outside of your control. And while that happened, when you kind of force
Astrally
projected
projected,
like on accident in a lot of ways, but it wasn't on accident. Zeno summoned you to a space.
Do what now?
And the two of you had a conversation. And when you guys see Oren come back, his face is a little bit heavier. There seems to be a weight on him.
Oren, what are you
Yeah,
alright?
I'm
Do you
fine.
need to-
Y'all ready to go?
No. What
What-
just happened?
what just
You don't
happened?
get to just collapse on the floor and then say, "Okay, guys, let's go."
We need to know if this is going to happen again in the middle of the battle or escape.
Do you have a seizure?
Talk to us.
Nothing like that. I feel closer in my connection to Ibra now. I think I have broken a limit.
That's a good thing, right?
Oh, limit breaks are always very good. Yes.
Yeah. I got a new party trick when we get back home.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to trust you, Oren, but I'm going to keep an eye out and make sure.
I have no doubt that you will, Kuiper.
I got some defibs ready if something happens.
That's right. I'm going to keep some serums around just in case.
In your head, you hear Ziva say, "Are you sure you are all right? You do not have to be tough in front of us."
Cap, everything's fine. We just have work to do. And the reality of that hit me.
All right.
Val pulls out his notebooks like, all right, so what's this party trick?
Hey,
Could I learn it?
hey, Val.
Yes.
Ready to go do some hero shit?
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll see you.
Fucking A. And he pulls the slide of his pistol back.